Okay, folks, thank you for being here in person, and we have some folks remote. If you have a Gmail account, the YouTube chat feature works, and you can send in questions that way. If you don't have Gmail, you can also send Mitzi McNeil questions directly, and we'll read them to the group, and then Scott or Kelly will answer them. Thank you all for being here. Jennifer, thanks for organizing and providing coffee and pumpkin bread. And Dean Scott Ziegler, Program Director Kelly Maxner, thank you both for taking the time and answering some questions. And we also today have Adrian Pallone, who is the designated drama college counselor, who has been working with all of your students individually. So Adrian, thanks for being here. And that's my introduction. I'll turn it over to Scott and Kelly, and then we'll move to questions.
I'm just going to start by saying I feel like the high school year has been off to a wonderful start. The classwork is already so robust, and it's been really a pleasure for me that I've already gotten to have some class time with the high school students myself. We have begun working on college monologue preparation and talking about the college monologue process. Which hopefully is beneficial to them because I'm actually one of the people on the other side of the table when people do college monologues. So I've had a wonderful time working with them already. I know we've already got 2 more classes scheduled. So we'll get in at least 4 classes with me on monologues before the first half of the semester. It's been wonderful for me to get to work with the students. I've heard wonderful reports already from the other faculty members. And I'll let Kelly go into a little bit more detail about how the year's been going.
The year has started off with, we hit the ground running, and as we had to, with a lot of different preparation for colleges. I believe that everything in the curriculum is geared towards the preparation for college. The voice class with Anne Louise has had a startling impact. I believe it's woken a lot of people up to the necessity of their voice. For the availability of their instrument and their ability to step into the life of a character and actually achieve the actions that the characters are going for. That accompanied by the yoga class and the physical classes and the singing class, all geared towards the preparation of the audition material. The songs now, I believe in the singing class, each student has selected audition material. And now that material is being worked on individually in the singing class. In the acting class, we have been really pursuing a 3-prong attack, if I may speak of it that way, where we're working on our classical monologues. In the text work, we've been working with Romeo and Juliet. Molly has been really working on the text analysis at identifying the objective words, really working on identifying given circumstances, identifying the objective of the scene, and then the tactic that comes after that. And those are the really key elements of developing the audition material. Scott coming into class has been profound in the sense that we are receiving information from someone who is on the other side of the table. And there are lights going off and aha moments happening in students' understanding of what an audition actually is and what a college audition actually is, and the skills that we need to gather for ourselves and then demonstrate in the room. A lot of that is learning to relax, learning to breathe in moments of tension when our adrenaline is at its highest peak. So a lot of the work with the yoga class, the voice class, the singing class, connect the breath and relax the instrument. So a lot of hurry up and get the work done and be patient with yourself at the same time.
And this is something, if I may for a second, this is something we really were able to get into right in Monday's class, which is that in the college audition process specifically, for those of us on the other side of the table, one of the things we're looking at is where is the student's body and voice right now? And obviously, at the entry undergraduate level, you're going to get a lot of variation on that. But one of the things we're assessing besides, I mean, primarily we want to get to know the individual. And so one of the things we've gotten to talk about is how important the choice of the material is, that you pick material that you love, that you pick material that you feel is really indicative of you as a human being, because we want to meet you in the room. At the same time, we're also assessing where are they at with their acting right now. And when we talk about where are they at with their acting, one of the things we're looking at is how prepared are they to begin the intense physical work that goes along with conservatory training at the BFA level. And so the yoga and the breath work happening now means that when they walk into the room, there's a high likelihood that we'll be able to technically, clinically assess the body and the voice and go, these are bodies and voices that are advanced already. And meaning that when they'll start at the beginning of freshman year, rather than having to undo a lot of bad habits, a lot of that is now happening in high school. It means we can start further along in the curriculum. This is something we talked about on Monday. We talked a lot about the importance of voice on Monday in particular. And it's great that they've got Anne Louise, because Anne Louise is also team teaching with me in first year college acting class. And so I'm able to connect to her work. I know her work. We're able to reference her work when we're doing the monologue work. And it really gives there a certain amount of synergy, I think, between all the different strains of the curriculum.
Accompanying the skills work, the voice, the acting, and the physical work, we have a class that's college seminar, which is purely dedicated to the college application process. This is the first year that Adrian Pallone has joined that class, and we are co-teaching that class. And that class has addressed the essays. It has addressed the connection with common application. It is working on time management and the timelines that we need to specify in order to put together the audition season for each individual student. We do have a large diversity of interests in the class. So we have musical theater students, we have acting conservatory students, and we have liberal arts students. All of those auditions require different specifications for the application and for the audition. At the moment, we're really working with preparing for our pre-screens. And a pre-screen is a video that you have to send the image that they have to view and accept before you can even apply for the college. So that we have some deadlines that we have to meet by October 1st for some schools. There are some deadlines for November 1st, and then December, January, all the way into February, just because of the different types of schools that we are auditioning for. So in that college seminar class with Adrian, we're addressing a lot of the technical needs for the application process to get into. Adrian, would you like to speak about that class at all?
No, other than that, I love being there. This is a great group of students, and I think everyone's making excellent progress on applications and preparation.
We have had in that class a guest artist, Isaac Klein, has come in and done a mock interview workshop. So that sat down. He is going to be coming in the spring semester to teach some devised work. And so we're having him come in the beginning of the fall semester to get to know the students, to get to know their work, so they get to know him, so that there's already a relationship happening before he steps in as an acting teacher. Yet they were stepping in and talking to someone very knowledgeable about the audition process, and they had to speak to a stranger about why they are pursuing the craft that they are pursuing. A large part of the audition process is being able to articulate your thoughts, being able to articulate your passion, being able to speak clearly about your goals in life, about some of the challenges that you face in your training, and about your deep connections to your artistic work. And those were addressed and brought up, and the conversation started in that interview audition. We've had a guest artist, Jewel Lane, who is a dancer, come in and do a musical theater dance mock audition. And that was about learning a combination right quick from someone else's body and having to learn their choreography. And that is a moment when you are, again, stressed out and adrenaline, and you feel that everybody's watching you. How do you breathe? How do you relax so that you can actually learn the steps and express through musicality? At the moment, we have a puppet masterclass, an artist named Matt Atchison and Dana. Do you guys remember her last name? No. And Patrick Osteen. Patrick Osteen is an alum of the school. He was in my first high school class. He's now dancing with Cirque du Soleil around the world. Matt Atchison worked with Warhorse in the national tour and actually did a lot of the coaching on Broadway. And he's here really helping us with our physicality and giving us a new way to view bringing alive the character. You guys have anything to say about the puppet workshop?
It's made me want to pursue puppetry, like legit. Like, it's one of the coolest things that I've ever been a part of, and just being able to like look at stuff and make 15 feet of craft paper a living, breathing thing is a completely new idea to me. And it's just so interesting seeing also how teams work together and the like connections, the nonverbal connections that just happened with 3 random people. And it was just so cool.
Yes. I don't know anything about puppetry. So when they came in and when we started the workshop on Wednesday, it was really eye-opening. And one thing about this school is you just jump in and you don't know what's going to happen except that you're going to learn something. And if you try, you will learn something. In general, so the next time I'm with a puppet, I can really get into the physicality of what it's like to just be a human and just stand and breathe, because you don't notice that, you know, when you breathe, how your body moves, and it's just so strange to be able to work with that with 2 other people.
One of the things we talked about that puppetry is so great for, one of the things we also talked about in class on Monday was how in the audition, a lot of what you see are people who are only acting from the head up and who aren't in the body at all. And we actually, that's a criteria that we use, is the actor in their body or not? Because if they're not in their body at all, when you start training them physically at the college level, you have to just get them in their body before you can start teaching things with their body. So the puppetry, the fact that it's teaching you all so much about how the use of the body and the animating the puppet through the body, it's really important for actors at the most advanced level to realize you're not just acting with your voice, that acting actually starts with the body, that the voice is just part of your physicality, really. And one other thing I'd say about it, which is so great that you're doing it, is that puppetry is a really growing part of theater practice in America. It's already fairly deeply integrated around the rest of the world through multiple international theater traditions. America has had some puppetry tradition, but it is as American work becomes more multicultural, one of the things that we're borrowing from lots of other cultural, historical performance backgrounds is puppetry. And so it's great that puppetry is being studied because it's being used in the American theater more and more and more.
All of this work is for our preparations for the college auditions and for our unified auditions. And unifieds are schedule-wise, they take place January and February. We do have some students who are actually auditioning for colleges, early decision, early action, and then there is also it's called Moonifieds, or the Munies down in Texas, and that's November 15th, 16th, and 17th. And that's a new addition to the high school program that is becoming similar to Unifieds as a consistent scheduled audition. The way that auditions are scheduled for unified auditions is that you must apply to the school first. You have to apply to the school. Once you submit your application, you are sent an email saying, when would you like to schedule your audition? Then you schedule your audition in either of 3 of those places for Unifieds, New York, Chicago, or Los Angeles. And that is depending much upon the individual's specific schedule. For example, a musical theater student would like to go to the Chicago Unifieds because they are able to audition for all of their schools in one place. Another student might go to New York and Chicago because their schools are going to be in the separate places. My big point is that the unified auditions are specific and unique to each individual student. For some, it is possible to take care of it just at one location. For others, depending upon the schools that you're auditioning for, it will determine a different travel need. We are working in the college seminar class to help that schedule grow and help that schedule solidify. We have not submitted yet to colleges. We are still in research mode. We are still in preparation mode. We are about to send the pre-screens and then start to apply. So that schedule is building. In the Chicago Unifieds, the university has a block of rooms at the Hyatt Hotel. And we ask students to get together to form a group of 3 or 4 students so that you can stay together in the hotel, and that can help with the costs and help with the expense. Yet because each individual student has such a different path, it has been impossible to put together a group trip because we don't have enough numbers in order to receive a group with discount. I have also found that the students that travel with their parents or by themselves have an easier time because they're not on tour with an ensemble. They are able to rest in between auditions. They're able to relax and not have to come back to a group dynamic. They don't have to meet curfews. And so I have noticed over the years that students that travel with their parents, travel with a chaperone, are able to focus on their auditions and able to dedicate 90, if not 100% to that time. I have always suggested to go to Chicago because Chicago is you can stay in 2 hotels. Most of the colleges are in these 2 hotels, the Hyatt and the Palmer. They're 5 blocks from each other. You don't have to spend a lot of money on taxis or on food. It's a little bit cheaper than going to New York and staying in New York. And I also find that it's difficult to be in New York and not be distracted by all of the shows and all of the events that are happening in New York. And my belief is that when we go to the college auditions, we want to go to the college auditions, not go to college auditions and see Wicked. I believe that concentration is absolutely necessary to be at your peak.
One thing I would add about the Unifieds as well, because I think sometimes there's a misunderstanding that Unifieds means you go and you audition and you're auditioning for all the schools at the Unifieds. And it's not that. So I want to really reiterate what Kelly was saying, which is you've got to be school specific. Like it's really about focusing on what are the schools that I'm targeting and then figuring out, given the schools I'm targeting, what's the Unified to go to. The Unifieds exist really just to try to create convenience. That the schools have gotten together and said, since we know the students are going to be graduating, applying, for multiple programs, let's try to coordinate so that we're all in the same place at the same time. So we all try to be in New York for this 4 days, Chicago for this 4 days, and for us 3 days. So that come and see, audition for whatever's going to be 5, 8 schools at the same time. But it's not a unified audition. It's not, there's a group called the URDAs, University Resident Theater Association, where they sometimes do a unified audition where you go to one audition and you're auditioning for multiple schools. But these unifieds are very different than that.
Can I ask for some feedback from the students about your preparation and some of the things that you are working on, maybe where you're at in your process in order to prepare for this moment? Aisha?
At this moment, I have applied to a couple colleges like Penn State and Shenandoah and Boco. I'm in the process of a lot of essays at the moment. So I try to, every weekend, I'm always at the library. I'm like, okay, we have to, okay, essay. And then I give it to Ms. Pallone and I give it to Mr. Maxner and my English teacher, and I have them read over it and tell me how they feel about it. I also applied to the school too, but so yeah, I'm definitely, and I'm in preparation for pre-screens. Like I'm planning days with my friend choreographers to start having choreography done, and planning with Mr. Maxner on days I can do my singing pre-screens and acting pre-screens and all that. So I think I'm in a pretty good place. Yeah.
I am definitely in the application process. I have several different drafts of essays that I'm putting together. One of the things that I'm really focusing on at the moment is supplementary material, because a lot of my schools ask me to fill out the Common App and to fill out a separate application through their application hub that has different requirements, different essays, or like videos that I have to send in that are unrelated and individual to the school. So that's something that I really wanted to crack down on and make sure that I knew what schools needed when, or needed what by when. So that's definitely where I am in my journey, getting all that stuff ready, getting things sent out before due dates, because I definitely don't want to be waiting until the deadline.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still in the application and essay phase. I only have to do, thankfully, everyone's college application experience is different. I know some people have to do like 5 or 6 pre-screens and dance choreography. I only have to do 2. And the one thing that I've had to remind myself during this process is that everyone's future and the paths they want to take and that they are able to take are completely different. Whether you're applying to, some people are applying to 10 to 15 schools. I'm only applying to 6. And there was a period of time where I felt that I didn't know if like I needed more options but then I had to take a step back and look at my list and remind myself that I have been forming this list for a really long time and I'm confident on the decisions that I'm making. So I've been doing a lot of confident checks, with myself, because writing essays and being self-reflective and introspective I don't even know if those are words, but it's part of the essay process, and it's been a little difficult for me. I think when we talked last time, it was get out of the past, be more direct, and I've always had trouble with that because I have never had the opportunity to really look at myself and make myself look good for colleges and tell my story. So that's been my experience so far.
I'm applying as a directing major for most of the schools I'm going to, so I don't have to worry about pre-screens, which is very nice. But I lucked out with that. But I do have to, I'm working on making a portfolio, and I'm going through scripts of shows I've directed and finding and marking them up, making them look nice. I'm finding pictures of shows, reading a lot of plays, writing essays about them, and just trying to learn as much as humanly possible in order to make myself look good. And I'm also a huge procrastinator, and so having that is an hour and a half or however long we have for college seminar every Wednesday is just like having that dedicated time where it's a lot harder for me to get off topic.
Mm.
And so if I'm just focused on that and like I have to do it, so I'm more likely to actually get my work done.
And you're also the assistant director on Hamlet.
November 15th, 16th, 17th. There it is. I was wondering if we were able to do that.
But that your portfolio is being built around.
Yes.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, I commend you for having a list of 6 to 8. I'm right in this all with you because my older daughter is a junior at the University of Vermont, but my younger daughter is a sophomore in high school. So we're gearing up for our second round of college applications ourselves. My older daughter's in elementary education, not in performance, so we didn't have to audition because if I'd had to get her ready for an audition, that would have been bizarre. But I want to say I have noticed a trend, I think, to audition or to apply for more and more and more schools. I think 6 to 8 is a really good number. I mean, I think for some people, 10 can be the right number. I think 12 can be the right number. But I think a list of 6 to 8, is a really, really good list. I think it is very much possible. You're the expert, but I think it's very much possible to apply to too many schools, to have to do too many auditions and burn yourself out a little bit in the audition process because you do again and again and again. So I would not be worried about the fact that you're looking at 6 to 8. I think that's a really good number.
And I also wanted to say one more thing. Being at the school in general, like during my senior year with colleges and stuff, it has taught me so much about time management because I felt like if I was at my old school, like I would not be ahead as I am like right now when it comes to applications and essays, like with Mr. Maxner, like pushing us, like with college seminars, like we have to focus. It just helped me so much, and being around you guys.
Oh, right.
You guys working.
There's no time to just sit back. Hey, do you want to just like watch a TV? Hey, do you want to run lines?
Yes.
Do you wanna
Yes.
That's how we hang out.
There have been literal times where like, hey, let's just go sit in the connector and do some college applications because our math class was canceled.
Yes.
And thank you, Miss Pallone, for college seminars. Really, really helpful.
It is.
And directing applications, photos are really important.
Yes.
So any production photos you've got. And a big part of it is your ability to talk about plays you've not yet directed, but you want to direct.
Right.
So 1 or 2 plays that you can really talk a full production concept, really helpful in those interviews.
Good tip. Wow.
Can I ask a question? So you've talked about you're doing a lot of that work with them on an application and getting process type stuff. And all of them, I can tell, have already put a ton of thought into selection of where. But are y'all coaching them at all on that, on where the thought of potential fit for these? You've talked about how different they are, and they've done tremendous work themselves. But you guys know different things about the schools. And so are y'all also coaching them on where to or not to apply? And or is that just going to come after they might get accepted and figuring out where to go? Are you also coaching them on where potentially to apply?
For me, the word coaching is too big.
Okay.
It's too big. There's feedback.
All right.
There is observation and witnessing. There are lots of questions, lots and lots of asking questions. Coaching implies that I would put my emphasis on it. For me, that's just for me. That's just that word for me is that I think you should go here. And I don't know them well enough to say that yet. Sure. And I think that comes into play after, I need to get to know them, and I also need to get to know the parents, because I think parents sometimes have an idea of, have their feedback on where the student should go. And so understanding the full picture of that context, I need to learn that. So I'm in process of learning a lot about the student, learning a lot about their multi-talented array, as opposed to someone who comes in and says, I'm a musical theater student, so I'm just going there. Yet I also find out that that student's a great writer. And so it's like, hey, how, let's really explore this a little bit before we decide on those 6 to 8 schools that really narrow that student's focus. Are we having conversations and helping research these websites? Yes. Are we asking questions about what kind of city you want to live in? What is your career path? What do you see for yourself? And then talk about what that actual career is. And yeah, lots of.
And they don't always know yet. And that, when I first have my initial meetings with the students, I often just ask them a lot of questions and write it down. Where do you see yourself being? And it can be as simple as geography, just to start with. And go from there. But lots of questions, lots of listening, and lots of getting to know them.
Yeah.
One thing we have done in my class already was we did have a very robust conversation about what is the difference between going to a BA program versus a BFA program. What's the difference between some place that identifies as a musical theater program and doesn't identify as a musical theater program? It's like, can you only do musicals if you go to a musical theater program? The answer to which is no, because we don't identify as a musical theater program, but we have a lot of alumni in musical theater. There was just a list that was published by Playbill, I think last week, of schools, top 10 schools represented on Broadway this year, and we were in it. I know we were in it for the last 2 years. I wasn't honestly paying attention before that because I wasn't here. But we have been in it we have been on that list for the last 2 years, but we're not a musical theater program. So I did try to talk about, what does it mean to go to a musical theater program versus a BFA that is not a musical theater program? And then what's the difference between that and going to a BA program, a more liberal arts? And I really did try to talk to them about these are going to be the actual curricular differences. You're going to get more of this and less of this. And that's what differentiates those programs from each other. I think what Kelly and Adrian said is the right way to look at it, which is really about getting them to think about what the right questions are. Because there's a lot of great schools. It's a little bit hard to go, well, I think this school or I think that school. There's so many variables, big city, little city. There's huge financial questions around this school versus that school. And we're not really the best people, I think, to weigh in on those things. So I think the best thing we can do is sort of help them frame the questions and think about it. But I mean, I'm certainly happy when people have begun to be accepted. I'm happy to say this program is going to be more like this. This program is going to be more like this. I mean, I have a lot of experience, but I wouldn't really want to steer people one way or another because, like Kelly, I don't feel like well enough to know what the right thing is for them. I can talk about the difference between one thing or another, but it's so personal, and there really are so many great schools. There are little schools that no one ever thinks of that have one or two phenomenal theater teachers at them that you can really do well without being in the pressure of someplace like a Juilliard or a Carnegie Mellon. And us for that matter. And for other people, that sort of pressure cooker environment is the perfect thing. So, it's really, I think, helping them sort of understand all the variables that are in play more than it's leading them to really us to say this school's probably better or worse.
In my questions, in conversations with the students, one of the major commonalities is that everybody wants quality. Everybody wants a quality training. And so a lot of what I'm trying to do is connect them with students who have already gone to that school from this program. So there's a common understanding of rigor. There's a common language of the acting craft. And so a student that goes to Point Park, if you want to go to Point Park, I can say, hey, talk to so-and-so. They've gone through the high school program. They know what UNCSA is. So you have a common understanding. And I believe that common understanding of rigor and training is so important for understanding, is it a quality school? So I would try to put you in touch with Toby Alexander, who went to Carnegie Mellon's directing program, so that you can talk to him about what it was. I have alum and students from, I would say, every school that you're interested. And so there are those smaller schools that I'm being introduced to that I don't have that. And that requires going onto the web and going, okay, digging deep into the curriculum figuring out how many times you have acting class a week. Is that acting class accompanied with a voice class? And is there also a physical element of the training? Because that is what we're receiving here, a very strong connection in those really three ideas of craft, accompanied with the text analysis and the devised work and all of the other things that fit in there. There's a lot of variables about classical training, about BA, about musical theater, about the hybrid programs, programs that you can find out of state that are under $50,000 a year. There's a maze to move through, and we are moving our way through that as we learn about the individual student.
And then if you really want to get into the weeds, if you know you're going to study acting, there starts to be variability in what approach to acting is taught at one school to another, from one school to another. And that's something I can help them with as well, because I teach a particular approach, but I have familiarity with most of the approaches that are out there at this point. And I'm even though I teach one particular thing, I'm a really strong believer that there's no one best approach. The different approaches really serve different students. And so it's more about, I encourage people strongly, when you are accepted, visit, sit in. Don't go by reputation. Don't just go by reputation. And the last thing I wanted to say on that topic, there's a lot of research coming out where, I'm kind of speaking more from sort of a general educational background, because I was at a Ivy League school before I came here. Everyone is trying to get into the quote unquote best school. But all the research says it's not about getting into the best or the most highly ranked school. It's about getting into the school that's the best fit, because the success of the student outcome will have to do with how well they are suited to the school and the school is suited to them, not how quote unquote good that school is.
That was the nature of my question. Is to get it exactly what you just said.
Yeah, it's not about the best school.
We've all read lists.
Yeah.
So I know that, and that's what that's what I was asking.
Yeah. Now the one thing I will say is about the list, I say this as the dean of a school that's on the list, is that in terms of if you're really serious BFA, either musical theater or not musical theater BFA, there is a little bit of correlation between the lists and how the industry views the schools. And a lot of it, as I said to them, a lot of it comes down to, so you're talking about pre-screens. The reason we don't pre-screen, we're right on the verge, or we might have to pre-screen. And the reason schools pre-screen is it's a function of how many people are applying. Because there's a point where you can only see so many people in the room. We saw UNCSA drama saw 725 last year. We have done math where we think if we get over 900, we may have to pre-screen, even though the schools I know do not want to pre-screen. But if you get over a certain number, there are not enough days in the auditions to see a certain number of people, which is why people go to pre-screens. But one of the things about schools with bigger applicant pools is that from the standpoint of the industry, that's a pre-screen for the industry itself, right? I mean, I'll talk about graduate school for a second, because I'm coming from the graduate school, the MFA landscape. Everyone knows on the MFA level that Yale gets the most applications, which means that from the industry standpoint, it's not so much, the training at Yale is so great. Oh, training at Yale is great, but that's not really what the industry is interested in. The industry is interested in this graduating class of 16 was chosen from 1,500 applications. So I can take them as being 16 of that 1,500 that are probably the top of that 1,500. That has a lot to do with reputation in the industry, not even what the training is, just the number of applicants versus just the acceptance rate. And for the student experience, the nature of the training, the nature of the teaching, the nature of the school environment matters so much more than those kinds of things, that I would not be too concerned about the lists. And we're on it, but I wouldn't be too concerned about the list. I would say it's so much more about the fit than the list. And there's a ton of research that supports that.
In the process, at the beginning of school, I sit down in college meetings, and I had a college list, and all the college lists were very much off the websites. And now when I go, let's look at the college list, it's absolutely different. And it's geared towards the student's individual interests. And a lot of colleges have been let go off the lists, have been, nope, that's not a college for me. I realize after I've looked at it, I go, that's not a college for me. That's, I was looking at that for a different reason. And now I know, now I have a frame and my own individual frame to look for, not pleasing someone else.
Also, a lot of the lists have no legitimate methodology behind them whatsoever. It's just true. I mean, it's opinion, a lot of it's opinion. This list is different from this list because they ask different people. Some of it is just the people on this website who visit this website to begin with, weighing in on what they think the schools are. They may not even have gone to any of the schools, so the list, there's a couple of lists that I think are considered a little bit more credible than others, but if you're looking at a list at all, I would definitely want to look into what is the methodology behind which this list was developed.
Any more questions?
Have one remotely sent. If you could address the difference plus minus for auditioning in person on campus versus Unifies.
As the person who does both the on-campus auditions for UNCSA and goes to all three cities, I go to New York, Chicago, and LA, from our point of view in terms of evaluating the audition, no difference whatsoever. You do not get any kind of advantage by auditioning in one place or another. I would say there is potentially an advantage for the family and the student in that when you go to the campus, you're going to get a feel for the campus. And you can walk around more. If you're there to audition, generally our auditions on the weekend, so there aren't classes to sit in on, but you might be able to see a show at any given campus if you're there on a weekend. So I'd say if you have the time, it is great to visit a campus because you get to know more about the school. But honestly, there's absolutely no advantage whatsoever in the audition process going to the school versus being seen in the not.
I've been speaking to a lot of my friends who went through this audition process either last year or 2 years ago. And what I've heard from them when it comes to auditioning on campus versus unifieds and like those sort of situations, the two big ones are affordability. It's some people, it's a lot more affordable to go to the majority of their colleges at unifieds and be able to get them out of the way in one location. Like if they're going with family, it's cheaper flights. And then the other thing is stress. Unifieds is within just 4 days if you're going to one, or it's like 4 days here, 4 days here. Whereas if you're auditioning on campus, you can choose days that are a little bit more spaced out and sort of arrange your schedule to where you feel comfortable and you feel prepared.
Yeah, I would agree with that because one thing I would say about Unified, again, from my perspective, auditioning to people, it does not matter at all. But the Unified experience, I won't lie, the Unified experience is a little chaotic. Like talking about the Hyatt, for example, we are one of 20 to 25 schools in the Hyatt, not counting all the schools that are at the Palmer House. Yeah. So people are going back and forth between the Hyatt and the Palmer House. So there's 20 to 25 schools across 3 floors of the Hyatt, the one by the river in Chicago. And it's teeming with people who are auditioning. So it's hard to find a quiet place. It's very difficult sometimes to find a place to warm up. Some of the schools provide a warm-up room. Most of them don't. A couple of them do. Juilliard usually provides a warm-up room because they have more money than most other people. But it can just feel very chaotic in the Unifieds because there's so many schools and so many people there auditioning for the schools. So it really requires kind of really being able to put your blinders on and go, I'm just focusing on what I'm here to do. So I agree. There can be a higher stress level with the Unifieds just because there's so much going on in a very concentrated place over 3 to 4 days. So it does feel kind of crazy.
With the Chicago Unifieds, because of our deal with the hotel, we have a room just for the high school program, which is a warm-up room.
That's
we
great.
Have it all day.
That's great. I didn't even know that. That's
it's
amazing.
A place to go where you can chill out, where get away from all of that. And if I'm not there, well, we have an alum. Last year, Jimmy Jeter, who's in Hamilton, there came and ran the warm up for us every day. And we have a mandatory company warm up. That's only in Chicago because the New York Unifieds we can't have that.
No, and the reason for that, and it is one of the reasons I would back Kelly up on Chicago maybe being the preferable location, is because in Chicago, it's pretty much everything's at the Hyatt or the Palmer House. In New York, it's kind of spread around the city because you're not at a hotel, you're at rehearsal studios around New York City. So we use a very well-known New York rehearsal space called Ripley Greer. And when we're at Ripley Greer, there's maybe 8 other schools at Ripley Greer, but that means there's 5 other schools somewhere else in Midtown, someone may be downtown. You know, it is centralized in Chicago that it's not in New York, which is why you can't have a room, because you make a deal with a hotel, you can get that warm-up room. But at Ripley Greer, you're renting a studio on an hour-by-hour basis for all of our auditions. If we just tried to add one room, it would double our cost of being in New York. So it is nice in Chicago that everything is really centralized between the 2 schools. New York, things are a lot more spread out. LA, things are most, LA, it's usually hotels, but it's a few different hotels. Most of them are near the airport, which just makes it a little more convenient. But LA as a rule is just never convenient for anything, ever.
So true. Okay, so I have a couple more. Could you comment about the international schools like Lambda that are at the Unifieds?
Yes, Lambda comes to the Unifieds, Royal Welsh, Royal Scottish, Guildhall, and they are actually, that's one of the struggles, is that their timing doesn't always meet with the Unifieds. Lambda might come 2 days before the New York Unifieds or the weekend after, so sometimes it depends on their schedule. And this year, we don't have any students going for the London schools. Are you going for one?
Yeah,
That's me.
There's a couple, yeah.
Yeah, and they've just cropped up, I think. So just those decisions are just being made. I have just spoken with Lambda, and I'm in the works of bringing Rodney to school. So Lambda will come to UNCSA.
He's the head of the school.
He's the head of the program.
Yeah, he contacted me as well, so we're definitely bringing him into the campus.
Yes.
The international schools, it's a little bit tricky because some of them are outstanding schools. Some of them are truly amongst the best theater schools in the world. Some of them are trading on just having an international pedigree and trying to attract American students as with an international pedigree, on the idea that we must be great because we're international, and they're trying to bring in American dollars basically by doing that. So you really need, I would say, to do a deep dive on a school by school basis with the international schools, really see how long have they been around, who are their graduates, who is on the faculty, what is the standing of the people on the faculty. I mean, Lambda is a wonderful school. Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts is a wonderful school. Guildhall is a very good school. Central School of Speech and Drama in London, I'd say, is a very good school.
Bada is
good. Scotland, Royal Conservatoire of Scotland is good. But I wouldn't go somewhere. International by itself doesn't mean good. So you really do need to research the school itself very carefully.
A big question that comes up with those is, what do we do after graduation? So sometimes a student picks a school because also of the alumni network that is involved with that school. And some of the big questions is then, can I get a visa and work there in a different country, or coming back to America, then where are my classmates and where's my network of artists? There's a huge network of artists that have graduated from the London schools in New York, all over the place. But that is something to take into account.
Yeah, and it is worth noting that one of the things, if you really are at a conservatory, one of the things you benefit from is a conservatory having professional connections within the industry that you're going to work in. With the London school, I know the visa restrictions are actually pretty significant. If you're holding an American passport, I think you can only stay for 1 to 3 months. If you're an international student coming to a school in America, you can get a visa that allows you to stay in the country for a year after graduation and pursue work. And then if you get work in the industry that you trained in, there's the possibility of an extended visa. So that's, I know, the situation for international students when they come here. I know specifically it's more restrictive than that in England. It could change in England, honestly, because of Brexit and because all of that may change the entire visa situation. But it's a really good point, is that you could get wonderful training, but you may not make the professional connections that are going to serve you where you're actually going to be a working actor. As an American, it can be difficult to study in England and then continue to work in England.
Is there any in-state school, or are there any in-state schools that have strong theater programs that you can recommend?
Yes.
Other than,
Yes. Again, strong can depend upon the student's unique talents and their unique interests. If we're looking for theater schools that train with the rigor of BFA, then Elon, UNCSA, obviously, that's, the Elon. You can look at Western Carolina, you can look at Eastern Carolina. Musical theater can look at Mars Hill. There is Coastal Carolina, Wilmington, Asheville. There are a number of different programs, UNCG, Greensboro.
Chapel Hill.
Chapel Hill.
That's good for undergraduate theater.
So a number of programs in state. And there are also, and I think Texas State is the only one that does this one. I think the Georgia schools might be closer to it, but Texas State, if you get into their BFA program, you only pay in-state tuition. So that's an in-state school that's out of state. But I know that tuition really helps that. And that's a strong, very strong theater program. Catawba, I forgot to Catawba. Let me mention Catawba.
So your university program is obviously very well known. It's on the lists. But so do these college, how well known is the program that these students are getting ready to graduate from? How much are they a known commodity because of y'all?
The high school program?
Yes, sir.
Well, we're on the lists as well. I believe LaGuardia, Interlochen first? Interlochen's first, and then LaGuardia, and then School of the Arts. I know all the teachers personally at a lot of these schools, and they have a very strong connection and a very positive reputation from the students coming from our school. Having Rodney call to come, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. One of our recruitment directors, Quinn Gordon, visits NOCA, which is in Louisiana, New Orleans, and he visits other performing arts high schools.
New World, Dreyfus. He's actually on that trip right now.
Yeah, so our recruitment director is also going around the big performing arts high schools that are strong feeder schools to the college program, and we are one of those schools. I have received emails from admissions directors and from faculty from a lot of the schools saying that our essay work is among the top and really providing individual, not stepping. It's providing us to step out of the box and be seen as individuals. And that's, I feel, important in that audition, is that we are seen as human beings, and when that happens, that's a successful audition. So a number of places we have a strong connection with a lot of different programs.
Also, I would say the high school is spectacular in and of itself, but in terms of the question you're asking, it benefits from being at UNCSA because all of those colleges know us, the college program, and affiliate the high school. I mean, we're under the same brand, we share teachers. So the fact that the college program is known filters down to the reputation of the high school, because anyone they're auditioning knows the college program. Auditioning for knows the college program.
There's a question about family weekend coming up in October, if there's any scheduled performance or something that's.
There is a scheduled lecture demonstration. It's on Saturday, the 20th, the 20th from 1 to 4. And that, we just had a faculty meeting yesterday and put that on the calendar, so that should be. And in that, we will be demonstrating all of our classes, our dance, singing, voice, and putting up, as well as showing the teaser trailer for Hamlet.
Oh my god.
That is the first time, there's so many firsts this year. There's so many first things happening this year. It's a special year in that there's so many firsts happening. Homecoming is that weekend.
First drama coffee time.
First drama coffee time. So homecoming is that weekend. There's a lot going on campus that weekend. Is that next to normal? Oh, that's the One Acts? Yes,
October 20th is
Yeah,
the One Act.
the One Acts. The One Act plays.
Yes, the college will be, the BFA program will be doing its first production of the year, which is 2 one-act plays, one by the brilliant but too infrequently produced playwright Adam Kennedy. A one-act of hers called A Movie Star Has to Star in Black and White, coupled with a one-act by Tennessee Williams called Suddenly Last Summer, being directed by one of our new faculty members, Cameron Knight, who just came to us from DePaul. And we're really excited to open our season with that and thrilled that it will be that weekend. Get your tickets. If you're going to be here, if you're going to be here, get your tickets because it will sell out
It's a
probably.
big event and great work.
So, but speaking of getting tickets, and so obviously I just heard 1 to 4 Saturday. Is there anything else that we should anticipate going on that weekend? Or the rest of it's just us visiting with our kids?
And note to self that in the future, having kids here, what a great idea that was.
Yes, good idea.
What a great idea.
Like with all the open houses, any orientation, I'm there and then it's like, can they?
Yeah.
Speak what's going on with them, and some of them
Exactly.
really opened my eyes.
And one of the things we always are hearing from parents is my kid doesn't tell me anything. So, how great to get it. They're here, they'll talk,
Mhm.
especially if we were asking.
And parent weekend is we'll just bring them all up on stage and I'll just say, hey, ask questions, ask them what's going on, and we spend a good hour just talking with them about what they're going through.
All right, any more questions, Mitzi?
If you go, let's see the fine print.
The question is, you don't infer a level of the student's interest in whether they decided to come. A kid who goes to Winston is really into UNCSA versus just having it as a safety or an option.
You can speak to this, but what I would say is, I think some come and they want the 1-year experience here and then they want an experience somewhere else. I think others come and always wanted to go here. I think some come and being here for a year makes them want to go here more. But I don't take it that a kid is in the high school program means they definitely want this to be their top choice school for college. I would not assume that.
Definitely not.
Most of them are applying here, correct?
It's a struggle because in the audition process, many students say when they're auditioning in the interview, they very clearly say, I'd like to go to a liberal arts school.
Mhm.
And then when they arrive here and they see what the conservatory is, they let go of all of those interests and immediately want to become like what most people are in the ensemble, is pursuing the conservatories because the conservatories are the best.
Right.
And oftentimes I have to remind and say, hey, remember what you spoke to me about in your audition about wanting to have a full array. And where is that with your thinking right now?
Right.
I just wanted to remind you of what you said to me when you came in,
It's back to the questions.
and back to the questions of what would you like your life to be? So there is no assumption of where the
No,
student would
not
like
at
to
all.
go.
Not at all. I mean, I think for a lot of kids, this is a great stepping stone to a plan to get somewhere else that they've always had. Sometimes I think maybe this ends up on their radar because they're here. And I think there are some kids that come hoping they will go here. But I definitely don't infer a greater amount of interest just because they came to the high school program. The last one's not a question.
It's not a question.
There's ongoing chat about whether kids do or do not tell their parents anything after it was said that my kid doesn't tell me anything. So some kids do, some kids don't. That's what I've picked up from the chat.
Very true.
Yeah.
The class seems to be getting along well, though. I'm hearing that I'll use the wrong word, but there's not drama. They have your good drama, but things seem to be going well amongst the group.
As far as I can see, yes. I have not had any drama brought to my doorstep, so knock on my head.
Nor mine yet.
Yeah, so
I keep my ear to the ground.
that's a good sign.
Yeah, it's a good sign.
And it's one of the things that Audrey said was that she's recognizing how different everyone is. And that's the key, is when everyone goes, wait, you're different from me, but I don't have to compare myself to you. I'm not really, my confidence in my own choices is not challenged by you. You can do your own thing and I can do my own thing. I think that's the energy in the room, and that is what is allowing us to have a cohesive time at the moment.
Less competitive than I anticipated. That's nice for the exec. I've heard what you just said.
You know, I have to say, well, I mean, I was going to say just in my classes, I found them incredibly supportive of each other. But I also have to say, I'm biased. I'm the dean of the school, but I have to say for the college, that's also what we've been told, is that we are known amongst the colleges. We are known for not having the same kind of competitive atmosphere within the student population as some of the other on the list schools have. That there is really it's a very close-knit community, the entire campus, high school and college alike. It's a very close-knit campus. It's a community. People are really supportive of each other. I think they love that there are students in the other arts disciplines. I mean, I think the drama kids love seeing the dance students and the music students in the high school programs. So there can be competitive. I mean, I went to NYU. NYU was super competitive, but the students in the college as well are not really feeling like they're competing with each other. There really is a philosophy of creation of ensemble in both the high school and the college program that I think they buy into for the most part.
Yeah, I see in the more, for example, a musical theater program where everyone in that program is going for musical theater. That's where the competition becomes caustic.
Yeah.
They're all going for that. Like my dance class is one of the hardest classes to teach because I have a dancer that can do a triple, and then I have a dancer who really is struggling doing a grapevine and doing a weight shift. The skill level is incredibly a huge range. And for this student to help this student, that creates the environment of we're in this together. And so by understanding and seeing that difference, yeah, this student here can play the guitar like nobody's business. So there's a true understanding of the diversity of our industry.
Well, it's not a question, but one mother is very happy that this session was very informational, and she's glad that her daughter is here sharing the year with you guys.
Oh, so nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
That
is pretty much, I don't see any other questions.
Okay, I misread the previous question. It's asking whether auditioning in town means the kid wants the school more. Is it okay for a UNCSA kid to audition for Michigan and Chicago? Will UN decline one who doesn't audition in Ann Arbor to protect yield?
I can't answer for the University of Michigan. I don't take it to mean that the kid wants to go to the school more because they audition on campus than because they audition in another city. I would be surprised if the university, I see what you mean by yield. I'd be surprised if UM or any school assumed it meant a greater level of interest because they came to campus. It's really, a lot of it is financial. I mean, some people may have the financial wherewithal to be able to go to 5 different schools and have 5 different auditions. I think for us to say that means they're more interested in going here than someone who didn't bother to come to campus would not be an attitude that we would want to take, because some of the kids just can't afford to come here. It doesn't mean that they are not the most interested in, afford to travel here for the audition. It doesn't mean that they're not our top choice. And the fact that they are here doesn't mean we are their top choice. It just means they have the wherewithal to be able to get to North Carolina. The majority of on-campus auditions we see are in-state students, probably because it's easiest for them to get to North Carolina. There are system-wide mandates for the University of North Carolina about a ratio. We cannot go below a 50-50 ratio on the entire campus, nor, as I understand it, can any UNC campus go below a 50-50 in-state, out-of-state ratio. So to some degree, if they're in, we don't tend to need to worry about the ratio that much because we're such a small part of the campus, and the high school programs have so many in-state students that I think the campus is 60 in-state, 40 out-of-state right now anyway. So no one's that worried in the in-state, out-of-state in terms of that protecting yield in that manner. We don't take it to mean they're more, honestly, if you're asking about UM or if you're asking about us, we're not accepting to protect yield. We don't actually worry about, we have a pretty good yield regardless of who we take. We're not trying to identify higher level of interest. We really are pretty much trying to identify highest level of talent.
That was my question to you, is like, if you have a student that comes in and they are expressing an intense interest in coming to the school, you're going to take the student more talented, more than the one that displays the knowledge of the school or the interest of the school. You are reading talent.
I mean, honestly, how much they want to come doesn't matter. It just really doesn't matter. It's like they're either up to the level that the training is going to require of them or they're not. Our acceptance rate last year was under 5%. We saw 725 for 34 places, so a little bit over 1 in 20 as a ratio. Our yield on the acceptance was probably, I don't know the exact number, I prepared that number for this meeting, somewhere probably between 60 and 70, which is pretty good. But we would never accept on the basis of we think they would come. I would be amazed if the University of Michigan would accept on the basis of they think they would come.
They don't need to.
They don't need it. They don't need it. None of the programs on the list are having trouble getting people to attend their programs.
I would also think that the schools, the institutions, want to put forth that their reputation is about providing a fair and balanced audition no matter where the student is. Because if it gets out that school is providing favoritism for students who come to the campus, that's a little illegal and unethical.
Right. I just don't think anyone is factoring in how likely the kid's attendance is into the acceptance decision. I don't think they are.
Yeah. I think oftentimes the variables about the auditions and the audition process that aren't on the websites are not actually what the people in the room are actually looking for. I struggle with that. I struggle with some of the websites that say, this is what you have, this, put this monologue together. This school is looking for this. This school is looking for this.
Oh, they don't know.
And
Yeah,
what you're
no,
talking
they don't know.
about what you're actually looking for in the room has nothing to do with what those websites say.
No, I mean, we're looking for two things. We're looking for two things. We're looking for talent and we're looking for trainability. And you can have a lot of talent, but come off as not trainable, and we don't want to take you. We wish you the best because you've got a lot of talent, but if you don't present as trainable, trainability comes across more in the interview than in the audition itself. That's why the interview is very important to us. We take more time on our auditions than a lot of our peer institutions because talking to the kids to us is very, very important. I've done this since 1992. So I feel like there are certain ways an 18-year-old, 17 or 18-year-old talks about what they're looking for in school that reveals to me as an acting teacher whether they are really want to be trained or not, or whether they just want to go there because they think it'll give them a path to a career. The quickest way, at least I can only speak for me at this point, but the quickest way to not get accepted into a program I'm running is to basically say, I want to go to your school because I think I have the best career path by going to your school. That's the best way to not get in, only because that's not the right reason to go to school. Right? We want people who can talk. I mean, the question we almost always ask in the audition is, what do you feel like you need to work on? And an applicant who can talk intelligently about what they need to work on as a performer is looking for training. An applicant who can't talk about that, I think, isn't thinking about training deeply enough, and in and of itself, that may make them not the right candidate for us. We do a little bit more interviewing than other programs do.
Yes, you do.
But talent and trainability, we'll look, if we see someone who's really trainable and has the right raw material, talent matters less. But ideally you're getting the right combination of talent and trainability, and those are the criteria. And eagerness to go. I mean, if they're clearly not interested in going and you're just one of the schools on their list, that will affect them being trainable. So a lack of interest in the school would probably affect them negatively, but you're my top choice by itself doesn't factor into the decision we're going to make about the audition.
Any more remote questions? Okay, thank you, folks.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
We'll post the video probably sometime next week on the website. Jordan, if you want to watch it again for the highlights.
You see how we came off?
See how my arm got in well?
But again, thank you folks for participating remotely, and thank you for taking the time.
Sure.